We are introducing Arewa Youth Mentorship Program. The AYMP is a collection of Northern Nigeria academics and professionals from different spheres of life who volunteer to offer free mentorship and equip Northern Nigeria youth at all levels with necessary knowledge on career opportunities, scholarship grants, personality building, innovation, among others.
It's my pleasure to welcome you to yet another episode of the Arewa Youth Mentorship Program. Today, our topic is supply chain management in Nigeria, opportunities across academia, industry, and entrepreneurship. On behalf of the Arewa Youth Mentorship Program Organizing Committee, I would like to thank you all for gracing our invitation, and I would also like to thank our participants for joining us today. So today we have three distinguished speakers, thought leaders and practitioners in the field of supply chain management. They emanate from industry, academia, entrepreneurship. So it's expected that we will have all-round discussion, and it's expected that at the end of the session, there will be Q&A. And also feel free, if you have some comments, some questions, to drop them on the chat box. It will be enabled soon. Just a bit of context about the topic today. It's a very important topic. The Nigerian supply chain ecosystem, as we all aware, is undergoing a rapid transformation driven by technology, local content policies, and the demand for greater efficiency and transparency. So today's session will explore these opportunities through these different unique lenses: the academia, industry, and entrepreneurship. So we are fortunate today to be joined by these accomplished speakers. And without wasting much of our time, our first speaker will be Dr. Ibrahim Labaran Ali. But I would just like to briefly introduce Dr. Ibrahim. We will summarize your CV, Dr. Ibrahim. Apologies for that. Dr. Ibrahim Labaran Ali is an assistant professor in supply chain management, digitization, and data analytics in the UK. He is an AI and digital transformation expert with over a decade of experience in supply chain innovation, public sector digitization, and applied data analytics. Dr. Ali has previously served as head of department and assistant dean at Kaduna State University, where he contributed to academic program development and student empowerment. His current work focuses on advancing supply chain resilience, local sourcing strategies, and procurement reskilling, while also mentoring students through initiatives such as the Aspire projects. So just before Dr. Ibrahim takes on the stage, I would like to just inform our participants that at the end of the session, we will share the slides, and especially on our Telegram page. And you can also find this session and our previous webinars on the Arewa Youth Mentorship Program YouTube page. So just in case, if you are not there, you can join. I will share the link on the chat box. So it's my pleasure to hand over the virtual mic to Dr. Ibrahim Ali, who will take us through the journey, especially from the academic perspective. Dr. Ibrahim Ali, over to you.
All right, thank you very much. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen, please?
Yeah, it's coming. Yeah, now it's there. We can see. Just make it presentation mode. Yeah, that's good.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Yakub, for this great occasion. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. it has been quite a challenge trying to organize what to say in this gathering, because I always feel that academics is quite a boring endeavor. And when we started, say, in our secondary school, you hardly find a child who say they want to be, a lecturer or, a teacher, because it's quite boring. So gathering, the slide was a challenge. If I had to call one of the colleagues and to ask him if I really need a slide, or I could just talk it out, because I could stay forever explaining the supply chain. But I have some very few slides to take you through the academic aspect of supply chain, tell you what it is, and um, how those of you who wants to further your education and probably wants to do research, who wants to probably think about a job in academia. These are the areas which I'll be touching on. So supply chain is basically a mixture of a couple of areas. Firstly, we have procurement, which is very popular in the Nigerian context. We have production planning. When you go into an industry, obviously, take yourself, for example, before you cook any food, you have to think about how you're going to plan for that production. And tied to that is the inventory. We all have inventory in our house, right? If you go to your kitchen, you have some salt, you have some food. If you go to your wardrobe, you have some clothes, right? Then warehousing. Situations where we cannot use all our product at the same time, or we cannot have all our product at the same time, we need to have them in a place where they have to be kept, which is the warehouse. And this warehouse, we have some sciences that goes behind, managing the warehouse, especially for cold related product, for pharmaceutical product, for products who can, perishables. They have a lot of science behind that. Supply chain also covers logistics, which is quite popular. It could be for human or it could be for goods, invariably moving products, people from point A to point B, in terms of having them fill in the right time, the right quantity, and also the security behind it. In essence, supply chain is the backbone of all countries and also globally. The term supply chain was coined around the early 90s, but these operations, which I've told you earlier in terms of logistics, it has been long in the military. So logistics is one of the core. There's no way you can advance in, men to the battlefield without logistics. So logistics has always been there as a core. Procurement and inventory has also been there. So in the mid-90s, that term supply chain was now coined, which gave into the academic programs. What is supply chain? Simple. It basically involves the technology, information, resources that all involve in moving the product from point A, or it could be a service actually, from point A to the final consumer. So it involves the design of that product. It also involves now the procurement of the product. It involves the manufacture of the product. It involves the warehousing of that product, the logistics, and up to the final customer. And when it gets to the final customer could accept it or reject it. So there's a new supply chain that comes about, which is now the reverse logistics, right? So these are, in summary, what the supply chain involves. Now, the academic pathway for supply chain from undergraduate to the PhD level. For undergraduates, especially in Nigeria, we have a BSc. Some countries could have a BA. The courses which are taken could be logistics, procurement, operations, business analytics. Supply chain, you need some quantitative analysis skills. You need communication because you're going to be working with suppliers, and in modern supply chains, you need technology. So most BScs are grounded in these modules. There are lots of modules tied to the BSc program. For postgraduates, that is, say, a master's, some universities could call it MBA, but it's also there's MBA with supply chain specialization. So modules could be terms of sourcing, risk management, supply chain analytics, advanced procurement, finance. They could have different universities have different modules which they teach for their postgraduate program. Some could have some internship, and some could also have some consultancy project, depending on the university. Then in the PhD, the doctoral, you have specialization from quite a broad areas. You could have from digitalization, humanitarian logistics, and policy. In the end, you want to have some journal publication, go for global collaborations, and also you can take some teaching roles, which I'll talk about that shortly. Some top universities offering supply chain management courses. The number one university in the world is MIT. They have a center for transportation and logistics in the USA. It's the number one in the world. They have some interesting courses, which some of them you can audit for free. I think if you go through Coursera or Udemy, you can audit some courses. So if you have interest, you want to know more about supply chain, you could start from those free MIT courses that you just audit for free and get more insight about supply chain management. University of Michigan is another top university in the United States. My university, University of Warwick in the UK, is the number one for master's program for supply chain management. Cranfield is a very good university also for supply chain management. Then you have Rotterdam, one in Singapore, and the Zurich. But supply chain is one course that is being offered by many universities in the world. In the end, you're looking, the decision to pick a university, it goes around many things. Could be the funding, could be the scholarship, could be the city, could be the environment. Whatever decision you make, it's based on your own situation, and I believe you make the right decision to pick which university you want to pick if you want to study supply chain management. Nigeria and Africa. In Nigeria, Kaduna State University was the first university to offer a BSc in procurement and supply chain management. Then last year they started a BSc in logistics. I was there as a head of department before moving to the UK. The Lagos Business School, they offer a program in supply chain management. Federal University of Cashier, which I'm also visiting as a visiting professor there. They have a BSc in supply chain. Covenant University, University of Lagos, Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, they also have a master's program in supply chain management. So they're part of, there's a World Bank funded project in a couple of universities which run some supply chain management, but it all started from Kaduna State University. In Africa, University of Joburg, they're offering Stellenbosch in also South Africa, University of Nairobi, Cairo, but there are more universities which I haven't cited here offering courses in supply chain management in Africa. Emerging research trends in supply chain. Right now, digital supply chain, digital transformation, talking about AI, talking about blockchain, digital twin, they're the core emerging areas coming up. So when we talk about transformation, we're saying that how can we change business operation model. So, for example, how the business source their product, how the business recruit, how the business manufacture. So, if you want to leverage digital technology to enhance the business process, how can we use AI, blockchain, digital twin? So, these are interesting research frontiers right now. Green and circular supply chain, we have to think about the environment. We have to make sure that we don't take everything and not bring in, leave some for the future generation. So green supply chain is has been there for the past 10 years, but it's still a very important research area. Humanitarian logistics and humanitarian supply chain is very important. What is happening in different parts of the country. You could have flooding. There was a couple of months ago flooding in Niger State. You have a lot of displacement. So humanitarian logistics deals with responding to humanitarian crisis. So we in supply chain, we have a special approach which we use to support that operations, right? Healthcare supply chain, very fundamental, has its own uniqueness. So when you talk about drugs and cold chain, very important. Say you want to get drugs to a local remote village in a different state, which there's no access to road. You might heard about zip line, which they use drones to deliver blood. So healthcare supply chain is one emerging area. Very interesting for also people who have some background in medical, but apart from that, you can still carry out your research in that area. Resilience is fundamental. We saw the COVID pandemic, how it disrupted the supply chain. So basically during COVID, we just couldn't move product. The people who were supposed to do the work, they were all self-isolating, right? So it became very difficult. So we might not necessarily have COVID in the nearest future, but we might have a different type of disruption. So for example, a war could be a disruption, flooding could be a disruption, right? So how do we think about making our supply chain resilient? So when we talk about resilience, we're talking about the supply chain ability to anticipate the disaster before it occurs, prepare for the disaster, respond to the disaster, and then move to a newer place that is better than before. So it's very, very difficult, right? So it needs a couple of things. For example, you want to be flexible, you want to be adaptable. Being flexible probably means you need to have some extra inventory. An extra inventory, the people from Lean will tell you it is waste, right? So resilient supply chain is one interesting area. My PhD was on that. I could stay forever talking about that. But geopolitics is a very interesting area. So since Donald Trump came, you heard about the tariff, you heard about the sanctions and the global disruption. Very, very huge, right? So till now, companies are still grappling on how to manage that geopolitical tension. So I think last week the president of Nigeria banned the export of shea butter from Nigeria. And Nigeria exports about 40% of shea butter. Shea butter in Hausa, they call it can someone unmute and remind me? Forgotten the name. Mankali or so. I don't know. Mankali. Yeah. Nigeria export 40% of the world shea butter. I can't say on the top of my head how much is the revenue from that, but we only get less than 10% of the revenue. So you can imagine you're the main producer, but you're not getting revenue. So the president, in his very, very rightful approach, said, we're not going to export share butter for the next 6 months. And that's what America is doing in terms of, protecting their own local economy. And that is what Ethiopia has done in terms of coffee. So Ethiopia exports a large number of coffee, and they've said, look, we need this value chain to be protected. So we cannot export just raw coffee beans. You must carry some value addition in it in the country, because when you do some value addition in terms of, say, maybe refining, cleaning, you have to employ people, right? So very important research area. E-commerce, logistics, and last mile also important. Inclusivity in terms of how we're going to see if we can get more male, female in different roles in the supply chain. Ethical supply chain is also important. One area which I've forgot to add is the issue of cybersecurity. So just 3 days ago, JLR, Jaguar Land Rover, had a cyber attack, and the operations of that company right now is just stalled. Nothing is happening there. So cybersecurity in supply chain is also very, very strong emerging area. Admission and scholarship for Nigerians. Admission pathway for undergrad. All Nigerian university, you have to come through JAMB. In the UK, for undergrad, you can come through UCAS. Get in touch with the university. You need to have some strong background in mathematics, economics, and business. For postgrads, usually it's through online application. So if you want to go for postgrad, for masters, please try and get your transcripts. I know sometimes some universities you can take a long time, talking about weeks, to get your transcript, and I don't know why that is still happening. But please have a copy of your transcripts, right? They'll say you need to send it to a foreign university before they'll give it. It is your property. I don't know why that is still happening, but if you're interested in postgraduate, have a copy of your own transcript. It's your own property. Get your CV. So this is part of the whole idea of the Arewa Mentorship. You have to make sure your CV have to, say things about you that even if you're not there, right? So you have to, in a way, blow your trumpet logically. So get a very, very standard CV. CVs that you send to the UK or most Western countries, not the same like that of Nigeria. The CV which you send to the UK, you don't need to put your local government, you don't need to put your phone number, you don't need to put you could put your phone number, but you don't need to put your date of birth, especially date of birth. And date of birth is a very, very important information that you should always secure that. People could just use your name and date of birth and hack into your account. So don't write that type of CV and send for admission for postgraduate in the UK. You might need to have a statement of purpose and references. So for references, the Arewa Mentorship is here. I think you could get in touch with Professor Udil or any of us and say, I need a referee, and we'll be very, very happy to provide you with reference. Some university might require GMAT. Moving quickly. PhD, you need a very strong research proposal. So in the previous slide, I talked about the research frontier. So start thinking about the research proposal. There are two types of research proposal. Some university will tell you we just want a very, very short proposal of, say, 300 to 500 words, nothing more. While some university will tell you they want a detailed proposal of 2,500. That will have an introduction, a little bit of the literature, an insight into the methodology, an insight into the expected contribution, and probably an insight into the work plan. So how you plan to complete the work within the next 3 years. So start thinking about how to draft that. You can always get in touch with me. I can share you some proposal for supply chain, and also Professor Wudil. Importantly for your PhD is your supervisor. So unlike masters that you can go straight to the university website, for PhD, you have to get a supervisor. One way to go back through that, just go to the university they're thinking about, go to their website, then if you go to the staff list, you see different staff and they'll tell you their research area. So if you come to my area, for example, supply chain resilience, digitalization, then you can, either my email is definitely going to be there. Send me an email that I'm interested in XYZ research. This is my research topics, my background, this is my CV. If the supervisor is interested, he's going to tell you apply. Then the supervisor will tell the admission officer, the admission office to send the application. Then they'll organize an interview. So in PhD, there's going to be an interview. So you have to be prepared for that. Research frontiers, also from the Nigerian perspective, agricultural value chain is quite interesting area: infrastructure, port roads, digitization, sustainability, circular economy, policy and regulatory framework. Global research opportunity, resilient supply chain, global sustainability emergence. So I've talked about this. EVs is also quite interesting areas which is coming to play. Not very popular in Nigeria, but I know people who want to research about infrastructure for EV and the supply chain going behind that. It's quite interesting areas. Research method in supply chain. In research in supply chain, the methodology, you could do a quantitative methodology where you do survey, simulation. You could also use some secondary data to analyze. And we could also do social media crawling, where you get the data from there. You could do qualitative method, which is going to be interviews or case studies. And also you could do mixed method, which you're mixing both the qualitative and the quantitative method. Some scholarship, I'm almost there. Some scholarship for Nigerians, the Shevnin scholarships. The Commonwealth scholarship is on at the moment. I believe Professor Wudil has talked about it. Erasmus Mandus, Fulbright, DAD, MasterCard, and there are lots of them. There are Nigerian-based universities, scholarship, PTDF is there, Tech Fund, NNPC. Guys, at this point, let me advise any of you who is interested in supply chain. I'll share my link. You could follow me on LinkedIn. So what we do usually is within my network, I have academics who will say they're looking for students that they want them to carry out a research. So they're going to sponsor the student for their PhD. So we call this PhD studentship. So they're going to sponsor the student for their PhD while the student is doing their PhD. So university also, they have like a teaching associate where you might be teaching undergrad and also doing your PhD. Right. Some university some university will have a full-blown scholarship which they offer. So one of the easiest way, apart from this list of scholarship, please get in touch in LinkedIn. Might not necessarily be me. If you go to your LinkedIn page, just type professors in supply chain. You find them, follow them. They always advertise. It's either they're advertising for postdoctoral position or PhD studentship. Always. Yeah, I don't spend a week without reposting one or two, and you could easily get them. almost this is the last page, I think. Top 10 tips for writing an outstanding PhD research proposal. You need to develop a very clear and compelling title. Please don't recycle a title. Don't use a title that has been long gone. Get a title that is very active, that the professor will find very interest in it. You should write your strong introduction. Your first word should be strong, and please don't use ChatGPT. Use your own words. Yeah, because we smell ChatGPT from a mile. So make sure you could use it to think about ideas, but don't use it as the main source of your writing. So have that strong introduction there, showing the importance of the context. Conduct a literature review. So you could use Google Scholar. Just type the title of your research, put it in Google Scholar. You could shrink it, and you find a couple of research that have been done on that. Review those literature and identify the gaps. Once the gap is what haven't been done in that area. And most times you could have what we call domain gap. A work might have been done in the UK, but have not been done in Nigeria. And the UK is totally different from Nigeria in terms of context, right? So that could be a domain gap. There could be literature gap. There could be methodological gap. You should formulate a precise research questions and objective, and make sure they are specific. So you can make sure the research use the SMART protocol, and make sure they are researchable, and you should align it with the research method. If you are having challenge, you could contact some of your supervisors from your past university, and maybe some of us, if we have the time, we could always help support. You should, if possible, present a solid theoretical and conceptual background. Outline a robust methodology. So the methodology is very important. That's what distinguishes a PhD work from a master's work. State clearly where you think the data is going to be coming from and the techniques which you're going to use for the analysis. You should demonstrate feasibility and realistic time. That's what I said earlier, that there have to be that timeline, because they want to make sure that if they're sponsoring you or if they're supervising you, it shouldn't be forever. 3 years maximum. 3 years is the main average. Could get lower or more. Highlight the originality and contribution to theory, practice, and policy in your field. Use professional and academic writing with logical structure. Don't write as if you're writing for Daily Trust or newspaper. You should write using academic language, right? Don't use super complicated words. So be as professional in your writing as possible. You should tailor your proposal to institution and supervisors, so you need to align it with their expertise and research strength. Wow, thank you very much. I've taken so much time. I have two other brilliant, fantastic colleagues who we're going to talk about from the professional and consulting perspective. You could connect with me, and very happy to support and answer any questions. I yield back to Professor Wudil. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ibrahim. That has been a wonderful presentation indeed. You have touched on so many things. Interestingly, even you touched on issues of scholarships, which we have been doing also on the AYMP. So I think maybe going forward, we will look at some of the scholarships that you mentioned. I believe we have touched on some, but ones like Erasmus, Mundus, DAD, and others, we have not even touched them. So likely we will touch them also soon, and we might also need to invite you again to the platform. Inshallah. Thank you very much. You have talked on many things on the supply chain management. Provided overview of it as a complete network of moving goods from the initial point to the destination. And this includes all the activities, the technology, the people. In fact, you call it the backbone of each country's national economy. This is really remarkable. You have also provided the opportunities in the academia, the internships. Even you mentioned some of the universities in the UK, the US, even in Africa, who offer these courses at both undergraduate, masters, and PhD. You also provided the research perspective, for those who are interested in the research in supply chain management. That's really great. And also you talked about the admission processes, admission pathways for both the undergrad, postgrad, CV. So basically you have touched on almost everything in the academia. Thank you very much for such a wonderful presentation. We've now got a presentation from the academic perspective. I think the next we should touch on the industry perspective. And then finally, Dr. Salisu will summarize both the academic and the industry from the entrepreneurial perspective. So our next speaker, Malam Aliyu Ahmed, who is from industry, will provide us with his perspective. But just before then, I would like to provide a brief. You have a long CV, mashallah, Malam Aliyu, but I will just try to summarize it. So you can share your screen also, please, while I am providing your introduction. Malam Aliyu Ahmed is a procurement and supply chain executive with over 18 years of strategic involvement in the Nigerian energy sector. He has delivered value across upstream operations, LNG mega projects, and enterprise transformation programs at NNPC Limited. He currently leads the services department at Nipex, an NNPC subsidiary, driving performance and operational efficiency across the HR, HSC, logistics, and administration. Mr. Ahmed holds a master's in procurement and supply chain management from Robert Gordon University in the UK, and is a chartered member of CIPS. He's also recognized as an industry speaker, a mentor, and he's committed to advancing local content, procurement reforms, and the development of ethical, high-performing professionals in Africa's supply chain ecosystem. So it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Aliyu Ahmed. He will be speaking for the next 20 to 25 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me? I just had
yes, we can. Yes, we can. Please,
Okay,
you can share your screen.
Let me share again.
Yes.
Let me do that again. Okay. Just confirm you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you and we can see your screen. Just make it in the presentation mode.
Yes, just about to do that. Okay. Please confirm I'm audible and I'm very clear.
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I've already been introduced. My name is Aliyu Ahmed, and I have over 18 years of experience in the oil and gas industry. And I would also want to say that Dr. Ibrahim Ali has really done justice to introducing the topic here, and we're talking about supply chain management. It's not a very common subject here in Nigeria, so let me just run through it as part of my introduction. So what is supply chain? That's already been explained. Okay, we are talking about getting the right product to reach the right place at the right time, at the right cost, at the right condition. Okay, so that means moving products from the supplier to the manufacturer to the distributor, retailer, and up to the final consumer. The keyword here is final consumer. So some people even call supply chain value chain. Basically, you can call it value chain, you can call it supply chain, you can call it supply network. It's just a network of interlinked organizations or companies, okay, which are all relying on each other. Somebody's supplier is somebody's producer, so up to the point when the final consumer gets the product, and that's where supply chain ends. So basically, to just run this through is that supply chain is in your daily lives. Some people might say it's just procurement, just go and buy something. What is there? So I would tell you that it's beyond that. From the point where you get your iPhone in your hands, you have no idea the complex network of logistics and supply chain it has went through. Okay. The same thing for your clothes, where it came from Egypt, it goes to Bangladesh, it goes to Vietnam, goes to Europe, and then comes back to to Africa and what have you. The same thing applies for food. So why does it matter? At this point, I will just take a step back and just mention this. Dr. Ibrahim mentioned a lot of things around academia, going for masters, going for BSc, and what have you. But I also want to look at this a bit differently in the sense that you could go and get your degree and come back, and where do you fit in? Okay, I know a lot of situations where students go and study a program and they come back and they're wondering, okay, is there an opportunity for me in the system? Do I have employment? So I'm looking at it not just on the employment side in terms of white-collar jobs, but also you being an employer of labor, the opportunities supply chain opens to you as an individual, regardless of whether you are even a supply chain professional or not. Okay, it's just for you to look at it in that regard. Okay. So look at it. Why supply chain matters. For Nigeria, supply chain is more than business. It's about national development, as the doctor said. Our roads, our port, our power system are all direct. It all directly affects that. Okay. And also, when you look at supply chain, as it improves, industry grows. So that's why it impacts the national competitiveness, the impacts of the cost of living, it impacts on job creation. That's why they have what they call the African Continental Free Trade Arrangements, which even makes supply chain expertise even more critical as Nigeria positions itself as a regional hub. And there are countless opportunities. And as I dive into my presentation, I will say more on that. So what is the industry? What is oil and gas industry? So oil and gas industry, opportunities are more like, it's massive. It's massive. And the supply chain behind it is even bigger. If I would want to show you a supply chain or value chain in oil and gas, it will take us a very long time. But let me just start from the exploration part of the oil to the point where it's produced, where it's stored, where it's transported, and then where it's now refined, and then where it's now being brought back to you as PMS or AGO, or what have you, and to the point where it is transported to filling stations, and then you go in there to buy. All that forms part of the complete oil and gas supply chain. So we are looking at rigs, spare parts, steel pipes, logistics, IT systems, safety equipment. There are so many products that exchange information, that exchange within that within the oil and gas supply chain. So it's really very massive and very fragile. That's why when you hear a little hiccup, maybe the Nipex wants to go on strike, suddenly there will be scarcity of oil. It's all supply chain. It's all the value chain, because there's a break in the link, and that link that broke kind of affected the whole supply chain. Okay, and I also want to mention here that in oil and gas, do you know that if there is a problem in one aspect of the supply chain, let's say the refineries could not lift because they have gone down, do you know that the whole network, including the upstream, up to the point where it's being produced, if they run out of storage, they have to shut down. That's how expensive a little hiccup in the supply chain in oil and gas is. So it's really, really massive, very expensive to maintain. So what are the opportunities there? Okay. For me, I would say some areas that stand out for me is clear. One of them is the local content. As some of you may be aware, the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Development Act of 2010 created opportunities for Nigerian companies. And when I say companies, it is not just suppliers, even buyers, because if you are in a Nigerian company or registered in Nigeria, there are certain businesses or aspects of businesses within the oil and gas that you are is mandatory that you are given the first consideration. So this has created rooms for entrepreneurs, engineers, service providers, and even students with ideas. I can tell you, there have been summits and consultancies that actually considered some research thesis from students in terms of skills. Second one is a digital transformation. So like where I work in Nipex. Nipex is translated as Nigerian Petroleum Exchange. It's a subsidiary of NUIMS and NNPC. NUIMS is NNPC Upstream Investment Management Service. So the Upstream Investment Management Service is like the Nigerian government's arm of investment management in the upstream industry. So all the OPLs, OAMLs, all the assets that are being produced, wherever there's federal government interest, NUIMS is in charge of it. So NIPEX is like a kind of a procurement platform designed to cater for the industry so that there will be transparency in the process. So you can see that we are now implementing some digital revolution within the supply chain, within now taking procurement as a subset of supply chain. So young professionals with technology skills can bridge traditional supply chain practices with modern digital tools, which creates competitive advantages for Nigerian companies. Another one is cost optimization. At this point, I want to mention that research has proven, and I can tell you in practice, that 70% of every spend of every organization goes through supply chain. Everything you spend, I can say 70%, and I would dare to even argue that it's even beyond 70%, goes through supply chain. So if you have 70% of your money going through a system, it's either you are buying a good or paying for a service. It's either you are buying a good, that's it. That's where all your money goes through as a business. So if that is the case, then where is the best way to optimize your cost? It's through supply chain. How do you, so you know, companies have now begun to understand that it's not companies that compete nowadays, it's supply chains that compete. It's no longer about company A and company B, even the better company. It's now about which company's supply chain is better. This has been the norm. If people begin to look at business like, why do you think Amazon is where they are? Why do you think Apple is where they are? Like Ibrahim said about the reverse logistics. That's what made Apple the best. It's not because they have a better quality product. It's just that they have the best logistics and supply chain. And they are using it to their advantage. Same thing with Amazon. How many times do you check on eBay if you have Amazon? You know that you get your materials faster. I like what he talks about, the last mile delivery and what have you. So in this case now, I'm now highlighting a project which I've been part of, unfortunately. It's about $8 billion project. And I can tell you, imagine if you can deliver 5% cost savings on that project. That's hundreds of millions. So supply chain management can deliver significant cost savings. So you can have professionals working within projects, analyzing vendor performance, optimizing procurement processes, and managing complex project logistics. So they are looking for people like that. Can you do that? Can you manage this kind of complex logistics so that we don't end up having to delay our project because we are not able to deliver our products on time? So these are all opportunities. So as you go back to school, get your degree, these are opportunities waiting for you. Okay. Going forward, beyond oil and gas, because I don't want to look at it, I'm looking at it at the industry side. Okay, we do have many other sectors within Nigeria. For instance, before I even move on from this point, let me just even mention that CIPS, which is a Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply, is like the world standard procurement certification organization, which is based in the UK. I'm fortunate to be a member, the same thing for Salisu and as well as Dr. Ibrahim. I can tell you there are less than 200,000 professionals right now world over, like certified chartered CIPS professional world over. You can imagine. So it's not, we've not even started. There's nobody can tell you when you hear people saying they finished their degrees and they're still struggling for a job, it's because probably their skill is no longer in high demand. Like the world is moving towards these aspects of the business, cost savings, supply chains, logistics, and what have you. So in Nigeria, I remember as at 2019, I don't know, Salisu, I think I was the membership officer of FCIPS in Nigeria, and I was checking the database. We have less than 3,000 registered Nigerian chartered members. 3,000 as at that time. I don't know. Maybe now they might be up to 5,000. Imagine for a population of 200 million people, you have like less than 3,000 chartered members in Nigeria. So you can see it just open. I'm just bringing it out for you just as fast as I can because of time. So look at the e-commerce now in Nigeria. We have Jumia, we have all sorts of organizations. In fact, right now, retail stores are shutting down. It's more or less people now anticipate when you are even going to buy something, and they can even start delivering it to your place even before you place your order. So you can imagine payment integration and what have you. So these are all opportunities for young professionals. Look, okay, the big one here, agriculture. Nigeria is probably 70% agrarian. What I'm just trying to say is that the potential is huge. In Nigeria, most of these things you are seeing, the last mile delivery, the warehouse, talk about all these organizations running on supply chain like Dangote, like Unilever and what have you. They are all relying on movement of their products and services. Please, when you can't hear me, let me know, okay? Going forward.
Yes, okay.
Another big issue is the supply chain transformation. In Nigeria, in agriculture, like we if you remember, around June, April, May, June, there's always scarcity of tomato in Nigeria. But Salisu and Dr. Ibrahim will tell you that in the UK, there's never a time when there will be scarcity of tomato. Why is that? Why is that? It's because of supply chain. Simple. Where you cannot transport your product, where you're talking about cold chain development in Nigeria, where you don't even have an adequate storage system for agricultural products, where you can actually even store them and keep them fresh. We don't have that. So you find a lot of farmers losing their harvest to lack of storage system. You can imagine if you have the capabilities to start up a cold storage system in Nigeria. Can you imagine how much money you make out of that? Look at modern warehouses. Look at logistics optimization, where this represents multi-billion naira opportunity for supply chain professionals if they can design and implement solutions for agricultural value chains. They are all there. Another one is the healthcare. I heard Dr. Ibrahim also talk about healthcare, and you know there's a lot of counterfeits in healthcare products. So you don't even know where this product is coming from, whether it's genuine or not. Now they do have a kind of I think Salisu, correct me if I'm wrong, where they are now experimenting with blockchain technology to see how they can actually create an inimitable tracking system for drugs coming in from anywhere in the world. You can actually know where that drug is coming from, right from the point of raw material to the finished product. So you can imagine healthcare supply chain is there for the taking as well. Also, talking about manufacturing and fast-moving goods, consumer goods supply chain, from the point where you have, this Maggi that you're seeing, or this Nestle, Milo, and this what have you are seeing. Do you think everything is manufactured in Nigeria? It's not. A lot of these raw materials are sourced globally. Somebody was even talking about the automotive, that the Mercedes you are seeing, that even like 70% of the parts don't come from Germany. 70% come from around the world. So I don't know, it's the label, but it's not German. So that is supply chain for you, because everybody is looking at the best way to their own competitive advantage. So from the global procurement of ingredients to these multi-tier distribution networks to product planning to retail partnership, these are all areas that offers excellent career opportunities. If you come out as a professional in supply chain, you could decide to go for procurement or logistics or inventory management, or whatever field you decide to go through. These are all areas in the manufacturing and fast-moving consumer goods that are actually supply chain based. So it doesn't matter whether you're an engineer or you read English or whatever. You can always go back, do your master's in supply chain, get some skills, come back and start using it. Essential skills. What in digital literacy, which is the backbone of supply chain these days. It's all about data. It's all about data analytics. So if you are in supply chain, you have to be really good at using data, talking about Excel, Power BI, SAP, and what have you. Commercial awareness, that is the backbone of supply chain. I can tell you, it's all about the money. It's all about the naira and kobo, as they say. If you are not in the business of finance or understanding financial analytics and commercial skills, please go and get that. It's very important. Companies are looking for value. When we talk about cost optimization, it's all about commercial terminologies. ESG knowledge, that's talking about the environmental, social, and governance principle. It's also important. Communication skills too, because you find yourself talking to all sorts of people. I found myself talking to people from all parts of the world. Either we are negotiating, either we are talking about supply, either we are even having challenges and conflicts that we're trying to resolve. It's all about the people. It's all about the communication skills. If you are not able to communicate properly, you find yourself, at the mercy of some people. You go to India, they have their own culture. You have to respect that. You go to Brazil, you go to China. I heard that if you go to Iran or you are negotiating with Iranians, don't wear a tie. So you have to understand, they all have their own culture. You have to respect that. You have to know that when you go to Europe, be careful. Don't always shake people like you shake in Nigeria. It becomes a problem. They don't shake every time they say hello. So you have to understand that the cultures are different and you are dealing with people everywhere in the world, and you have to be in a position to understand that and to adjust accordingly. What are the challenges? So we have challenges, and you see how you see challenges that's when you now profit from it. Some people see challenges and they think it's a problem. But some people actually see challenges and see them as opportunities. Take, for instance, in Nigeria, you have infrastructure limitation. We don't have a road network, we have limited rail infrastructure. What are the opportunities? If you are a logistics, if you are a 3PL, what we call the third-party logistics, you could have a startup using technology to optimize routes. You could have all these big companies like Dangote and what have you with all their trucks. I remember I was in Gastech. That's Gastech. It's like a conference for gas in Italy. It's even currently holding in Milan as we speak. I think it's starting this week or thereabout. And I was in Gastech and I happened to bump into Bua. I met him. He came to our booth in NNPC, and I was like, being a Kano man, I decided to just introduce myself. And he was telling me that they are working very tirelessly to get CNG CNG technology for their trucks, because the diesel price is going up and they need to get better solutions for their. So imagine if I was a businessman, I could just quickly come back to Nigeria and set up a CNG business. So as challenges are happening, opportunities are coming out of that. Take instance, the forex volatility currently affecting imports. You can now start developing programs for import substitution initiatives, hedging strategies that create value for business. If a company is trying to import a certain material and you can source it locally, that's a good business for you. You could sell it at a very good rate because they find it cheaper from if you source locally than if you buy abroad. The same thing for regulatory complexity. There are multiple agencies challenging regulations, but you see compliance experts who understand regulatory requirements can actually streamline processes for business. There are people that are being employed just to be able to help people navigate Nigerian Content Management Board process. They pay them salary. Some people are paying people to just know how to register in Nipex. They want you to register their company in Nipex or in DPR or what have you. You can imagine. So whatever challenges come, I see opportunities as well. So what are the practical advice I want to say to students? First, stay curious. Always ask questions. Always ask questions. You can never get tired of asking questions. Even us, all of us you see here, we learn a lot. In fact, we're still learning as we speak. It's not going to stop. You have to keep learning. You have to find mentors. It's very important because this is a network business. The more people you know, the better for you as well. You should also start small. Don't start thinking of starting like with 1 million, 10 million, 5 million. Just start. Get a good idea and start. It doesn't matter whether you have your degree or not. Opportunities are there in the value chain. You can always start from that, because I know that students these days, when they come out from universities, the only thing they start thinking about, where can I get a job? Where can I get a job? A lot of them could actually, they have some skills they are not even using, and probably they should start thinking inwards for that. Think global, act local, understand international best practices while focusing on solving local supply chain challenges in Nigeria. I wanted to just bring this just for just a wild card here, because this is like a case study for me, because this was a project I did just before I came back this year. I was there for 5 years, and it's a very massive project. In fact, it's the biggest project in sub-Saharan Africa as we speak, because we're talking about $8 billion. I managed the supply, the procurement for this project, and I can tell you some of the things I want you to learn from it. First one is the key strategies that we employed for that project, and so far so good. We are right now at over 85% completion as we speak. And one of them is the vendor optimization we did. We did a competitive tendering so that we can get the best guy for this. Local content integration, we actually worked with Nigerian Content Monitoring Board to actually set up a plan, what we call the Nigerian Content Plan, that we are using, which reduces our compliance risks as well. Risk management, cost reduction through strategic sourcing. When COVID hit, that was when we started the project. You can imagine COVID, everybody at home, and we are starting a project. You can imagine what that, the Russia, Ukraine war also affected our project. But you can imagine if we had only one source, probably by now we would have really gone out of, the project would have really been severely affected as well. So some of them I want you to remember opportunities. You should analyze project procurement strategies and outcomes, study vendor selection criteria, examine local content approaches, review cost management. Anytime you are doing anything that has to do with business and project. Students can learn from real-world projects by studying the case studies, attending industry conferences, and also attending these kind of webinars and activities, because it also helps in giving you knowledge in things that are not even published. Because I'm telling you here, it's not published. These are things that are coming out from experience that I've had for close to 20 years. So what are the trends now? What are you supposed to look at if you are in supply chain right now? Is the digital supply chain, the blockchain, the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence. Do you know that ChatGPT has become so advanced? Not even ChatGPT, there are so many AIs there that have become so advanced that you can actually do jobs that takes you weeks. You can do it in days, in hours or minutes. And Ibrahim said something that you should not copy. You should use it for brainstorming. You should get ideas, put it in, turn it in, get ideas out, own your presentation, own your information. Don't just take garbage in, garbage out all the time. Supply chain 4.0 is coming, or rather, I would say it has even started. And I think the sooner we integrate our knowledge into digital world, the better for us. Also in ESG and sustainability, that is another area, because even now, as we are reviewing our supply chain policy in NNPC, we are looking at ESG and sustainability as the key drivers, because now the world is now looking more, it's no longer about just producing or buying. You want to know where it's coming from, ethics and what have you. Also, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement also created opportunities, because if you have an inter-African trade, supply chain professional who understand regional logistics can actually be in high demand. Imagine if I am a business guy and I want to expand to Ghana, or I want to expand to Cameroon. I don't know what to do. I will have to look for professionals who understand all these things, who has people across Africa that can link me up so that I can be able to so these are all opportunities for all of us to. So your role in Nigeria's economic future, you are not just future job seekers. You are future problem solvers. You are innovators. You are business owners who will shape Nigeria's economic landscape. Please, I want you to just take that job seeking out of your head. Start thinking about solving problems. Start thinking about innovating. Just don't go to school for going to school's sake. Come out with ideas. Come out with people will be ready to pay for those ideas and skills. The key takeaways for your career journey: so supply chain drives industry. Opportunities exist everywhere. Skills matter more than titles. Please don't write Aliyu Ahmed BSc. No, it's not enough. What can you do with that BSc? What does it do? What action can you deliver from that degree that you have gotten, or master's, as the case may be. So please, I want you to remember that supply chain profession offers diverse career path, continuous learning opportunities, and the chance to make a meaningful impact in Nigeria's economic development, not just in Nigeria, I would say the whole world. So a generation has the potential to transform how Nigeria participates in global supply chain. The backbone, I remember Dr. Ibrahim wrote this, and I was like thinking, who copied for who? But yeah, I think we think the same. You see, supply chain is not is the backbone of Nigerian goods. If we are talking about import of products, export of products, it's all the forex. You're talking about buying, selling, import. It's all supply chain. Why are you always buying? Why are you not selling? So at the end of the day, it's all the value that you're getting out of it. So it's the backbone. If it's not hidden behind the scenes, no, it's the backbone of Nigeria's growth story, and you have the opportunity to strengthen that backbone through your career choices and your professional contributions. As Nigeria continues as far as I want you to remember that the important roles are here: reducing cost of goods. These are areas: improving competitiveness, creating employment opportunities, facilitating regional trade, as well as supporting sustainable development goals through responsible supply chain practice. Thank you very much. My name is Aliyu, and I'm always open to questions that I could. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you.
Prof.
Thank you very much, Malam Aliyu Ahmed. You have really, changed our mindset and our perspective, on how we see the supply chain management. Maybe people like myself before just thought of it like when supply chain management is mentioned, transferring goods from Abuja to Kano, and that's where it ends. But with this now, we have seen, you have x-rayed the topic, and I think thank you very much for being generous enough to share this with us. Some important points that you mentioned, I would like just to reiterate them. You advised our participants not just to be job seekers, they should strive to be job creators, and that's all the purpose actually of the Arewa Youth Mentorship Program. That's what we encourage people to do, to enhance their skills, to try to be job creators instead of just job seekers. And something amazing also, you mentioned that most of the organizations, they spend, they are spending 70% of their spendings goes to supply chain. This is in a great breakthrough, really, and it highlights, how much, potential is there in the field that people can explore. And both speakers, Malam Aliyu and Dr. Ibrahim, mentioned that supply chain is not just a business. It's a tool for national development. And here in this presentation also, we have noted most of the skills required to succeed in the supply chain management business. And since it's a business that deals with people, Malam Ali also has underscored the importance of understanding people's cultures, and traditions in order to be successful in this. And finally, also, he talked about the challenges, and he advised us to, see those challenges as opportunities. And, the more the bigger the challenge, you can say, the bigger the opportunity. And also he concluded by advising us to think globally and act locally. So I believe our participants, most of them are youth, and, sometimes you just need information to succeed. So you have really ignited, that you have sparked that part of our brain. Now we see things not as they used to be. So I believe, inshallah, some success story will follow. And also now let's move to the next speaker. But before then, I would like just to introduce him. I would also like to really thank him, Dr. Salisu. He is the brain behind this session. So I would really like to thank Dr. Salisu, and I deliberately allow him to be at the end so that he will summarize what is needed both in the academia and in the industry as an entrepreneur. He is also, by the way, an academic. He's as a lecturer. now in the University of Strathclyde. So just a brief about Dr. Salisu. Dr. Salisu, you have a very long CV, mashallah. I will try to summarize it, you know. So Dr. Salisu is the founder and CEO of NatQuest, an AI-driven procurement company transforming how governments and businesses manage tenders, contracts, and suppliers. He's also an adjunct lecturer at the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow. Is recognized by the UK government as an exceptional talent in digital supply chain. Dr. Salisu holds a PhD in engineering management and has advised governments, donors, and multinationals across Africa, Middle East, and the UK. His work includes leading large-scale procurement programs, shaping national reforms, and embedding AI and automation into procurement and supply chain. Dr. Salisu, it's my pleasure to welcome you to give us your talk.
Thank you so much, Dr. Odil. Let me see if I can share my screen. I think I should be able to do that.
Yes.
A second. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
It's in presentation mode, right?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, everyone, for having the time to join us this afternoon. My name is Salisu, and I am the CEO of NatQuest. NatQuest is a supply chain technology company, and I'm also a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply, which is something that I'm always passionate about. I think Aliyu and Ibrahim have said a lot. So obviously what I will be doing is I will be skipping a lot of my presentation because I don't think we have to repeat most of the things that have been thoroughly presented, especially by the distinguished professionals that I have special respect for. So for me, I will look at entrepreneurship opportunities in the Nigerian supply chain ecosystem. And what I want us to do today is to look at some practical approach to creating sustainable problem solving and impact venture. And the reason why this is important more than ever before is Nigeria is quite diverse. We have enormous opportunities to be self-sustainable and create value for especially our teeming youths. There is a lot going on with insecurity, lack of, jobs or perhaps opportunities, to be, to make impact across, whether states, businesses, local governments, or what have you. Now, I want to echo something really important. I know that the two speakers have said a lot about why supply chain matters, but we all have different perspective to what truly supply chain is and how important supply chain is to different sectors, to different people. And I want to align with them that, one of the key attributes of a successful nation, right, not just a business, is how they leverage supply chain. 70% of public spending in government goes through procurement and managing suppliers and eventually managing a transparent supply chain and adding value to the people. I always like to give this example. If you reflect on some of the universities, for example, University of Maiduguri, is it the first or second generation universities? If you look at the infrastructure that are built in those institutions and you compare them with what we have today, right? What the current governments and current system are building, you cannot compare that. There is an element of lack of sustainable supply chain across what we do today. And that's why to most people, when you talk about supply chain, the first thing that comes to their mind is when you walk into the supermarket, the eggs and the breads are not there, then you think about supply chain, right? or perhaps you're on any medication and all of a sudden you are out of medication and the pharmacy has no supply, then that's probably when a lot of people will remember what truly supply chain is. But to us, I want you to remember this. Supply chain is like oxygen. Every industry, right? Every organization, our household. I like the Ibrahim's example of as simple as cooking at home, right? It involves a lot of supply chain. If one ingredient is not available, then probably you may not be able to prepare that meal. So think about supply chain like an oxygen. We only notice supply chain when they are not there, right? So what can we do in order to change those narrative? I think Aliyu has said that supply chain is, a network of interconnected, interdependent organization, and I agree with that. I have this here, and today, beyond the movement or management of flow of products, information, and finance across different industries, we have to think about what does supply chain means in today's world. So today what we are seeing is innovation and technology is changing how we perceive supply chain. So I want you to see supply chain from a very, very much simple perspective that it is everything connected to everything else. So we have four key areas that are really important in today's supply chain. We have the management. I think the two speakers have, discussed thoroughly on the management side, from planning, strategy, and of course, identifying needs and many other things around how organization will plan for products, services or manufacturing, depending on whether it's service organization or it's a product-led organization or even government. Another key important element is logistics. Logistics is quite vital, right? If you reflect on the Nigerian case, sometimes it's very difficult to just send an item, right? If you're in Abuja, I want to send an item to someone in Maiduguri or Kano, probably I have to go to the motor park, speak to the driver, a bit more informal. You don't know what is going to happen. There is no any risk assessment. That's the only option you have. So logistics is quite vital when it comes to not movement of the messages that we send to our loved ones, but a movement of every goods that we consume, right? Every material, every raw material that is needed in order to build, to manufacture or to deliver goods and services to the customers. Another key element, which I think we are all passionate about, is procurement, and is a whole lot of area that there is a lot of development in Nigeria, I believe. But again, we are not yet there when it comes to optimizing truly the value of procurement. And then finance, which is obviously every activities that happen, within supply chain has to be backed by good financial flow, right? Paying suppliers, paying for the product and services, cash flow optimization, getting your payment from customers, different, financial components are all important to how we manage supply chains. Now, what is the big picture, especially that we are talking about entrepreneurship opportunities in Nigeria? So the big picture here is that supply chain basically underpins every industry, is the backbone of every industry, whether it's in agriculture, healthcare, manufacturing, tech, public sector. That means there is enormous opportunities within supply chain, right? As Aliyu has mentioned, it's not just about procurement or procuring. There is logistics, inventory management, reverse logistics, order management, material management, contracts management. There is something that I think you're all aware of that happened yesterday. I was speaking with Ibrahim earlier. I think the name of the guy is the guy with Sojimoto company that has, I think, a EFCC case. I don't want to dive into what actually happened, But he made some really interesting comments that when the contract was awarded, he knew from day one that this is not implementable, right? The funds for the project is just not going to implement the project. But the governor convinced him to accept the project, and along the line, we all know constructions, right? Especially with the volatility in price and cost of material, he has no option than to abandon the project. And unfortunately, there wasn't any clarity of a very, very good contract management practice. And today, the case is something else. This is just a good example of how procurement, if not managed, can create a very unfortunate situation. Another key important aspect that I want you to picture here, especially from a business point of view, is the effective procurement can reduce, costs, improve services, create level of resilience for any product or services as at when needed. And today, what we are seeing is that every organization is scouting for supply chain and procurement people, right? They are in high demand, right? And I will share some key data with you in terms of the crisis that we have in talent and solutions in supply chains. So, for example, around 64% of companies in the US and the UK reported talent gap in supply chain management. From supply chain designs to delivery of products and services that we consume. This is quite a massive gap within not just the Nigerian context, but globally. So as for Nigeria, we all know that I think both the two speakers have spoken about this. We have already a fragmented logistics and procurement systems, not just in public sector, but including private sector, right? This is why it's very, very difficult. For example, if you are building a house, to determine how much accurately the cost of building a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom or so will cost you throughout the development process. So today, what that means is that there is a lot of an interesting area for outsourcing supply chain management, and is becoming key strategy for businesses. Think about this as a way where companies are focusing on their core competencies, right? Their core business, and outsourcing their supply chain to any service provider that is absolutely good in delivering that. And I will speak about what that means for business opportunity or people that want to venture into entrepreneurship within supply chains. This is also a very interesting slide highlighting some of the global supply chain challenges from SourceDoc. The reason why this is important is there is uniformity in the challenges that countries or industries or even businesses are facing in supply chains. And you can see from the first, which is the dark blue, is extremely challenging. Then the light blue or the normal blue is very challenging, and then of course somewhat challenging, and then the last, which is not challenging. So I will just focus on the top 3 or top 4 areas. Number 1 is supply chain disruption and shortages, right? What does that mean? That means companies are facing either shortages in or disruption in raw material, right? Workers, employees. For example, in the UK recently, we had issues with shortage of drivers, right? That will deliver, goods and services. This is just an example of that. Hiring and retaining qualified workers. One of the most industry that is, facing a lot of lack of retaining employees is in supply chain. People are moving like the goods and services. People want to move because there is a lot of opportunities. Companies are paying extra to get the right supply chain guys. And that the third one is connected to the second one, which is talent shortages, right? And of course, obviously, as people are not staying, then obviously that can create some talent shortages. What we are seeing today is customer demand for faster response time, which is reducing lead time, getting product on time. I think Aliyu also has mentioned the interesting model of companies like Amazon, which is anticipatory logistics. They deliver items to you in anticipation that you're going to buy that item. That's so impressive. So what does that mean? How can we reflect on some of these? Number one, when we talk about supply chain disruption and shortages, we don't have a standard framework and, of course, designs for supply chains that we operate across our industries, right? Whenever I'm in Nigeria, I visit the markets or supermarkets, there is always some sort of supply chain challenges, which what you see from that perspective, because you understand the dynamics and complexity of supply chain, what I'm seeing is just massive opportunity into how, new opportunities or new businesses can be created in order to solve some of these pain points. So, rather than just focusing on Nigeria, because the moment you have a broad supply chain, right, you have to think about what does that mean for the broader sector, right? How do you source for certain product and services? How do you expand across the market? Today, African supply chain market is growing, right? For example, what we have seen in the last 3 years is that SMEs are key drivers of almost 90% of businesses. However, apart from the job creation in Nigeria, they contribute almost 48% of the GDP. And today we have a very interesting framework, which is the AFCFTA, which is the African Continental Free Trade Area, which what that means is that any company that optimize and understands supply chain, if you have a business, you understand supply chain, you can easily understand how to tap into the AFCFTA to access other market. We're talking about accessing almost 1.3 billion people across Africa. Yes, we cannot ignore the fact that there is, challenges, things like poor infrastructure, regulatory complexity, and of course, talent is still a crisis, right? But trust me, with the right approach, especially some of the things that I will mention, we should be able to see areas where we can tap into this impressive and massive opportunity that is coming ahead. So let me narrow down to Nigeria, right? If you want to especially build a sustainable and practical problem that can solve problems across industries, you have got to think about, yes, how do I navigate some of these challenges? Number one, you have infrastructural deficit, right? It's obvious, whether it's electricity, road network, among others, currency instability, right? It's obvious, especially if you are sourcing raw material or services. And one of the most scalable business opportunity that we have is leveraging on tech. The cost of tech is very, very expensive, right? Especially if you are leveraging on external service providers. Even if you're not leveraging on external service providers outside Nigeria, those that are in Nigeria are paying for those services or infrastructure access in foreign currencies. And what that means is that there is a lot of volatility in that space. We have a lot of issues around regulatory uncertainty, from certifications, understanding different industry-specific regulations. If you're in oil and gas, if you're in energy, if you're in housing, there's all sort of regulatory requirements, which I think can affect the success or perhaps the failure of any business. Power is always an issue. I'm glad that we have some really interesting solutions today, leveraging the renewables like solar. Limited access to finance. As I have mentioned earlier, one of the key attributes of good supply chain management is management of the financial flow. And access to finance is really, really difficult in places like Nigeria. Even if you have access to finance, what that means is that you pay, high interest rates also. talent and skill gaps, right? There is difference between the talents that we have, right? And then the talent that you require in the industry. And supply chain is one of those industries that or profession that focuses on obviously the right skills that can match the requirements. We're not interested in development over time. We just want people that can fix the problem, right? If you are facing disruption, you have a multi-million contract to negotiate. Nobody is going to wait for you to get the right strategy also. You just have to act on that. Otherwise, the consequences will be enormous, right? Another key important challenge that we have, which I'm quite aware of, is fragmented markets, right? Inconsistency in our markets, right? Lack of information, informal, lot of intermediaries, people that are not adding value, right? They have no business to be within the market or perhaps being part of the ecosystem, but they do because of a fragmented market and ecosystem. Formality and trust issues really, really important. I've seen a lot of businesses that were not successful due to lack of trust and of course issues to do with not relying on individuals. Security and political risk is always the case. There's a lot of interest in lack of political stability, even though the democratic process that we have in Nigeria, we can say is quite stable. But when it comes to government policies, we see a lot of instability in lack of continuity in different programs, policies, or even areas of interest, right? Import dependence, we still rely heavily on imported goods. I'm glad that this is changing, especially with the new interests of the government to expand local content in procurement across almost all industries. So startup ecosystem growth, how can we leverage on supply chain challenges and opportunities to build incredible business? So I would like to highlight two things. You can build a service-based or product-based solution that can solve supply chain challenges. Service-based are businesses that focuses on providing value-added services, right? This could be strategy, this could be a bit of execution, or perhaps providing agency services in the sector. So think about it, because we are talking about network of interdependent organization. There is a lot of transaction that happen, whether it's information, material flow, which is the physical flow of product and services, products, sorry, not services, or perhaps things to do with identifying, sourcing, buying. There is a lot of service-based opportunities where you can build incredible businesses. Product based is to look at existing product in the market and how you can use supply chain opportunities to create new product within the line or within the market or within the industry. The concept of supply chain, the startup is, think about this as a newly founded company. One key difference between startup and a small business is that startup are designed to scale rapidly. So they have every chances to scale and grow, within the shortest possible time. And the aim is not just to, sell product and services in a traditional way, but to think about bringing innovation, technology, and other interesting models in order to scale, to grow, right? Nigeria is one of the really interesting countries that have really developed startup ecosystem, and we have seen more than 10x growth between 2002 to 2024 in Nigeria, mostly within fintech. And we can attribute all this development and growth in the ecosystem due to technology adoption and, of course, venture funding. So venture funding is key to fueling the growth of and scalability of startups. In Nigeria, most of the focus are on addressing financial inclusion, access to finance, and a bit of logistics and market access. And I think largely supply chain, right, is left behind, compared to what we are seeing in other industries and other countries. Saudi Arabia is a good example of how they are transforming their supply chain ecosystem. The government was very, very keen about transforming supply chain. Every sector is now transforming their supply chains, and they are creating jobs, new product, new solutions, new service line. So I believe there is a lot of opportunity available in the supply chain ecosystem today in Nigeria. So what makes a good supply chain business model unique? Number one is the people. And I think Ibrahim has talked about how you can develop interest in becoming a supply chain professional or expert or whatever you think you want to be in that space. So people are the key backbone of supply chain operations. And today it's obvious that we are seeing the impact. Some of the most successful companies, including Apple, are having their success because their CEO is having supply chain background and they understand the art and science of good supply chain management practice. Operations is key because we are talking about moving products, services, buying, products, transforming process, manufacturing, of course, customer service and customer satisfaction is all at the key, aspect of supply chain operations. So operations is a key element of a good supply chain business model. Strategy, you cannot get a good supply chain without strategy. Strategy is key, and this is obviously where you can use knowledge, transforming knowledge into skills, and then skills into value creation. Good sustainable procurement practice. It's not just about buying product and services, but how do we look at it from a more sustainable, not just the product, but the economic impact, of course, the social impact and the environmental impact. And the way I simplify this is think of it as a model whereby you're not making profit at the detriment of your environment and your society. Ethics and transparency is key, and I will always advise that this is one of the key priority of a good supply chain business model. The two guys can affirm that as a professional supply chain person in procurement, particularly if you're a member of FCIPS, you have to pass the ethics test almost every year. Then governance and accountability in order to ensure that there is proper accountability, transparency, because today what we are seeing, just like Aliyu has mentioned, companies are no longer computing. It's supply chain that is computing, and at the backbone of competition or supply chain collaboration is strong governance and accountability, because everything is about trust. Without trust, you cannot build accountability and governance within supply chain. So these are the key areas where I'm seeing a lot of development, and I think we can leverage and expand because the market is so huge. Number one is agri-tech and food supply chain, massive industry. There's a lot of opportunity in cold chains, processing, export, and for example, there is a lot of opportunity for startup model in finance plus market access for farmers. So think about waste to feed as a model, branded exports. These are all things that if you build around supply chain practice, you can improve that industry and make impact and, perhaps astronomical amount of money. Digital supply chain and technology. I built my own startup within digital technology. One of the model that we built was our SCM Genius Network. And basically what we do is bring in different companies, that are looking for supply chain experts, regardless of their locations. They work with incredible experts to support their supply chain operations. And then, of course, we saw a gap in the amount of time that governments, businesses are spending on managing tenders. And we developed an AI-powered tool for reducing up to 70% of time that organizations or companies are spending on evaluating and managing tenders. So there's a big gap in digital platforms to connect SMEs and improve visibility. There's a lot of development that I'm carefully following within, especially the northern Nigeria, building marketplace for products. But I think if we understand and navigate supply chain challenges, for example, how do we integrate a platform that incorporate not just buyers and sellers, logistics, inventory management, on-demand planning, right? On-demand inventory management, manufacturing, right? These are all different areas that you have to build those capabilities in order to succeed. And it's a very good business opportunity that anyone is interested in. Sustainable and resilient supply chain is also important. We cannot ignore all the flooding that is happening is a climate issue, geopolitical risk, eco-friendly design, circular economy. We don't have to ignore that. Look, we are Africans, we are in Nigeria, we don't care about circular economy. It is part of the practice that today we have to find ways where we can minimize what wastages in our supply chain, in how we consume things. So there's a lot of interesting opportunities, not just in Nigeria, but globally. Local strategy and talent development, and this has to do with service-based business. You can obviously focus on looking for opportunities to support suppliers, governments, distribution, training, digital skills, modern tools, inventory management optimization. You can build really, truly an incredible business within these areas. And finally, supply chain finance and fintech. Nigeria is a native country when it comes to fintech. I believe there is a lot of market opportunity still, which many suppliers, especially SMEs, are underserved. So the big opportunity here is, fintechs that are focused on improving SME liquidity and integrating supply chain could be a very interesting area. I don't want to spend a bit of time here because of time, because Aliyu has discussed most of the skills and competency that are required. But for a business-oriented person, I think understanding procurement and commercial is key. Today you cannot succeed in any business when you don't have the commercial acumen.
Yes.
Understanding data and technology is key. Project and consulting frameworks are very, very important. This is what many organizations, you may be surprised the amount of money that consultancies are being paid. It's just amazing the value that they can add. Don't underestimate the value that they can add. Don't just think that you are just paying money, but the value that they can add. And this is why it's a very interesting area where you can build opportunity. As for entrepreneurial roadmap, which I think first is identifying the gap, and this has to be validated, right? You can't just pick something. You just have to have an interest about this industry, design solution. What is your solution going to look like? Is it service-based? Is it product-led? Is it a marketplace? What do you want to do, right? Get the right resources. We are more than happy. FI Nigeria, I've been a mentor in FI for almost 6 years now. And all we do there is to develop entrepreneurial mindset, to develop business model, business ideas, and to support some of our incredible entrepreneurs in Nigeria. And then you pilot and iterate, scale and integrate. So these are different ways where you can build an entrepreneurial roadmap in order to do that. I just put this slide together to give you an example of if I am to open a coffee shop with a good supply chain focus and with non-supply chain focus. For example, if you have a supply chain focus, you will source high quality beans consistently at the best price locally or internationally, right? And this is what a procurement strategy. Building strong supplier relationship with reliable suppliers and rosters, contract management. These are all part of good practice in supply chain and contract management. Plan inventory to avoid stock out overstocking. Again, this is also a good practice in supply chain, only when you have the good understanding of the value of supply chain management. Things like optimizing delivery schedules, reducing transport costs and delays, using tech tools, inventory trackers, POS, and other tools that are capable of bringing customers closer to service delivery. and making the process as easy as possible. Negotiating better terms, not just buying product and services, reducing waste, managing packaging sustainably. These are all key things that you can achieve with good supply chain practice. But let's look at the other side. This is without good supply chain practice. All you do is probably buy random or from unreliable sourcing, which can lead to inconsistency or even product quality. Frequent stock out and expired inventory, right, which can affect your sales. You can pay even higher prices due to last minute or emergency purchases, lack of planning, for delivery planning, which can affect the ability to deliver on time and creates a frustrating situation for your customers. These are just some key examples of how you can perhaps build a business around supply chain mindsets and those that are not supply chain focused. As for supply chain focused business model, I want to focus on industry transformation. Think about, because of time, obviously, I'm just checking.
Yes, we're almost out of
I
time.
just have, I think, one more slide also.
Okay.
Think about new value
No
proposition.
problem.
Yeah, when it comes to industrial transformation, think about how can I create new value proposition? What does that mean, right? Think about sourcing and outsourcing, right? Before you create a new venture. Think about different marketplaces and market opportunity. And then once you get that right, based on the impact, it will have on the business and of course the role of digital technology innovation, then I believe you can make a huge difference. One example that I always want to give is the example of MoneyPoint and the traditional bank. You can see how they were able to expand by just leveraging on digital technology to transform simple marketing, banking solution. Of course, these are just some key areas. Doc, I will not, because of time, since you will have the slides at any time.
Yes, we will share the slides.
Yeah, but lastly is probably you will notice whenever, for those of you that have been out of Nigeria for any reason, whether it's in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, UK, you can build a business, small business, but if you understand supply chain can make you to build what a venture, a chain, right? For example, you can have a corner shop and a premier shop. Premier is a corner shop chain in the UK, almost everywhere, every corner, right? The ability to build something that can scale centered around supply chain. So every business that needs to scale, right, to go beyond one generation or just your local government, you have to understand supply chain. You have to master the art of supply chain. Without that, you cannot succeed and you cannot get to that stage. So please, I want to leave you with this. Procurement and supply chain as a career option, as a business opportunity. I have been in that space. I've worked in procurement within one of the most sophisticated industry in the United Kingdom in defense. I've seen the value that procurement can provide. I've done my PhD in supply chain. I'm currently supporting the procurement department, delivering some of the digital supply chain courses. And I built my own business in supply chain. I know the value of what truly a good supply chain can bring. So please think about making a difference by fixing our broken supply chain across sectors, right? For students, supply chain management is a very interesting and rewarding career. The opportunity is enormous. And if we have business leaders or people that are here to support businesses, please, from today, find opportunity to master supply chain management. Understanding the pain point of businesses, optimizing cost, creating value. This can lead to better programs, policies, and initiatives that can go beyond just a transaction, but a way that we can change our country, we can add value, we can create jobs, and importantly, we can support the future generations. Thank you very much indeed, and I yield back to you, Doc. In case of
Thank you very much, Dr. Salisu. I think today has been, I mean, the sessions have been very, very insightful. We really, appreciate the quality of the talks from the first speaker, Dr. Ibrahim, to the second speaker, Madam Aliyu, and also to the last speaker, Dr. Salisu. The last speaker, basically, just to reiterate what you said, you also, highlighted that supply chain and procurement people are highly sought after, especially in almost every organization. You also highlighted some of the challenges, pertaining the regulation, the finances, the certifications, and all that. And also you mentioned some things, that make a good supply chain business model. And also you highlighted the opportunities in the supply chain in Nigerian context and Nigerian business market. I think the presentation is really robust. And the good thing is we can always revisit this webinar. I myself, I have to revisit this webinar. There are many important things, that I really found insightful, and I believe I will have to revisit it on the YouTube. Of course, many people are asking the recording and the slides. So like I said, inshallah, they will all be shared. The video will be on the YouTube and the slides will be shared on the Telegram page of the Arewa Youth Mentorship program. So yeah, I think we will take a few questions because of time. Really, I wanted people to have an opportunity to ask as many questions as possible and interactions. But I think one thing that I will do, maybe before you send me your slides, you can just add your LinkedIn page so that people can reach out to you directly even later, especially those people who are really in the business and they want to have some private discussion and all that. Maybe later that can happen. But for the general questions, I think I will start maybe by my own question, and then maybe we take maybe 2 or 3 in just 10 minutes because of the time. We really wanted to close at 4 p.m., but maybe we'll just take some 10 minutes for questions and a round off. So the question is, to all the speakers, maybe anyone can respond, or if you all have some things to say, like people like myself, who are from science or engineering background. We have never been to supply chain stuff, and we found this webinar interesting, and we found like there are some opportunities that can be explored. Do we have something there? Like, is it possible, or do we need to go and get a degree in supply chain before we can jump into the field? So anyone, I think, can respond. Yeah.
I don't mind. I can.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you don't have to. So one really interesting, and I mean, I and Ali, we did our masters together. That's almost 12 years ago. And the irony is that in our set, we have people in engineering, mechanical engineering, computer science, and all sorts of different professions. And I think that's one of the key unique advantage of supply chains, right? Regardless of your expertise or your background, you can always find an opportunity to switch into procurement and supply chain. And I think I have mentioned this. This is why supply chain is pretty much a practical kind of profession where you just have to understand the art and science of what is required, right? Some of the skills and competencies that are required in order to be in procurement. If you want to be in, for example, procurement, I will highly advise that you go through SIPS. SIPS is the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply. You don't need any business degree or so in order to start your SIPS journey. Secondly is, for example, you have interest in contract management, right? There is World of Commerce, right? World of Contract and Commerce, one of the most reputable professional body in procurement. If you want to go into supply chains, there is CSCMP. There are many other professional bodies globally that you can focus on. So certainly, whosoever that is interested in, I have colleagues, right, that are CPOs. CPOs is the highest rank that you can achieve in procurement, which is Chief Procurement Officer, that are coming from medical background, right? And they are amazing professionals in procurement. So certainly you can switch at any time. And we'll be glad to have you, Doc.
That's interesting. Dr. Ibrahim, do you want to add?
I think Aliyu has. Okay.
Yes.
Just want to say, in summary, you can come into supply chain officially through three main routes. You will come in through, I'll call it, was not the right word, apprenticeship. It's not necessarily apprenticeship. As an adult, you could say work in the Ministry of Defense, you could work in a pharmacy. Literally, in apprenticeship is doing supply chain jobs and learning through that process. You could come in through academics, and you could come in through entrepreneurship, owning a business. One thing we don't value much in Nigeria is we don't acknowledge our efforts in a lot of activities. So a lot of us have managed projects. So we have experience of project management, but we don't add it to our CV. So it is very, very possible that a lot of people currently have done some procurement aspect, which is part of supply chain. Some people have done some logistics aspects, some people have done operations. So you can start being deliberate in that activity which you've done, and now look at the frameworks that are there, look at the broad professional frameworks, and see how you link that. You see, one thing I always say when I teach supply chain is 60% of what I teach are things people know. I'm just putting labels into what they do. So it is very possible, especially I've seen a lot of questions coming from people from health.
Yes.
There's a lot of supply chain which people are currently doing. Just if you want to be a professional, SIPS man, CILT is there. If you want to be an academics, go to a university. If you want to be a consultant, meet Dr. Salisu. So it's very easy. Yeah.
Yes,
So I yield back.
That's good. Thank you. Is Malam Aliyu with us?
Yes,
I
I'm
can
here.
see also. Okay, Malam,
here.
do you want to add? We just
Yeah,
want to have your opinion on this.
Yeah, just a quick one. They've already said it all, but
Yeah.
speaking for my own, and I think there's one thing that people don't realize. Supply chain is a professional, it's a kind of professional program, just like being a lawyer or being you could read anything you want to read, just like chartered accountant. You can just go and do your ICANN, and you are not an ICANN, you are a chartered accountant.
Yeah.
Especially, so it's mostly like that. So what I always say is, like, if you are a chemical engineer, for instance, or an electrical engineer, for instance, it's even good for you to be a supply chain, even by default, because you'll be dealing with suppliers of materials if you are in an industry. Like in my project now, I know I've met Trans 7 project, for instance. I deal with mostly gas related compressors, chemicals, and what have you. I'm not a chemical engineer. I'm not a civil engineer. So imagine if I actually was a civil engineer or chemical engineer, my efficiency would increase. I don't have to really have a learning curve to just be like a seamless, like in IT or healthcare. The more you know about what you are doing, the easier for you to be a supply chain professional. So basically, kind of be an add-on. You know what they call it, an add-on. What you have is good to have supply chain on top of it. Even if you are an engineer or an economist or a lawyer, just have supply chain on top of it. You are now, if somebody's employing two people, sort of one, so you have a competitive advantage on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think this makes a lot of sense. And you just pointed out something which I have never looked at, like, for instance, myself as a researcher in the lab, sometimes we prepare a list of chemicals to order. We pass through the university procurement department. They purchase the materials, it is delivered, and we pass through almost all this process, but not knowing that we are doing some other people's profession. So I think it's a good thing that you pointed out, and this is something that we should look at. Just for the sake of time, maybe we'll take one question from a lady, one question from a man, so that just to balance. And then maybe we can, the rest also, you can please continue the discussion and you can send your questions on the Telegram page. All those questions really that need the responses, I personally will forward them to Dr. Salisu also and the speakers. I believe when they respond, we can have the answers because of time. So please let me start by, Fatima Bukar, please. In just 30 seconds, go straight to the point and ask your questions. We really don't want to close the session without your inputs.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, sorry, I'm driving, so I just had to park. Thank you very much for the 3 insightful presentations. As someone that came into supply chain, as you mentioned, through the apprenticeship route, and I'm a pharmacist by training, so I'm trying to formalize my education through the CIPS route. And one thing I've noticed, because I work in the public sector, so Center for Disease Control in Nigeria, so there's a bit of a mismatch between the supply chain ecosystem globally, the supply chain ecosystem in Nigeria, and then what is actually being practiced in the public sector. So what I'll give you an example, our loss of staff, we train staff and we lose them. So all the youth I'm listening to in this program, which is very good, and the chances that they will develop their skills and they will be underappreciated and undercompensated, and they will eventually, if you're innovative, it's difficult to stay in a system that doesn't appreciate you. So they will eventually end up losing these talents that we're having. So is there any, I don't want to say lobby group, but maybe like an organized sector, especially for us in health? So in oil and gas, I feel they've really developed that skill, they've developed their relevance. But in public health, it tends to be an afterthought. And as a result of this, we either lose them to the public sector or to the development NGO sector. So I'm just hoping in the future, I mean, maybe I'm just sharing my thoughts, right? But we need a strong public health supply chain, as well as, and not just dependent on the development sector, but within our own government organization. So if it's possible for us to maybe, especially Arewa-centered, having a forum or a intervention, something that will highlight our unique specific challenges, and then we can be able to advocate to government to actually prioritize supply chain roles. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So do you want to respond to this one?
Yeah, I can
Okay.
say a few things. So thank you, Fatima. Fatima, right?
Yes.
I think this is just not unique to public sector in Nigeria. Is even in the UK, people are moving, right? There is always your own personal circumstances and interests. And of course, if I'm working in a certain industry and I got another offer in another place, it might be a bit difficult for you to convince me to stay, right? But again, it's kind of interesting because there is African Center for Resource Center in supply chain. They operate within public health. Is an organization that I have partnership with. And what I have witnessed over the last couple of years is that they have been doing a lot to build capacity, right? And of course, to engage, especially subnationals in Nigeria, on issues to do with better working condition, a lot of development around supply chain in the public health space. So I will always advise you to look at that. SIPS also has a procurement, I think it's healthcare procurement initiative by SIPS, which is in partnership with SIPS and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And lastly, obviously, I think one of the fellows of SIPS is now the BPP Director General, right? So hopefully we'll see a bit of interest from the government when it comes to transforming public sector procurement. But honestly, I'm not guaranteeing that this is going to change completely. It's an evolving area. There's a lot of interesting opportunities globally. Companies are looking with people for people with the right skills and mindsets to do that. So, but I'm also advising the Arewa startup Arewa Mentorship Program to have some specific interests if you have, if you can, to see how you can, look at some of the things that Fatima has said
Okay.
within, because it's a very important sector that touch across almost
Okay.
every spectrum of our life.
Okay, we'll look at it, inshallah.
Can I just make a point, please?
Okay, please.
Because her point is very fundamental, and just like Dr. Salisu say, people move, and that's certain. There's nothing we could do about it. Two approach, which I think is fundamental. One of it is we and her, Fatima, as a senior stakeholder, and all of us, we have to mentor down fast. Yeah, so we have to mentor down fast, because the more, if we say for example, a country like Cuba, they have more medical doctors than than they need. So if that sector is having a rapid shortage of people moving out of going to other countries, then the people like Fatima, people who are more concerned about retaining people or just having a good number, we have to really, really mentor down and partner with the universities. Again, we from the Arewa Mentorship and also the government, we have to create more incentives. Right now, universities are starting a program. Myself, for example, I'm in the UK here, but I am visiting over 4 universities in Nigeria, and for free, literally. None of them is paying me, because I really want to share that knowledge back. So we have to mentor back, and we have to support the universities to pump out more qualified professionals from the healthcare and other industry. I yield back. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ibrahim. That has been insightful.
Yeah,
All right,
just a quick one here.
Okay, Malam Ali, please go ahead.
Just a
You want
quick
to
one
add?
here.
I think Fatima has
Yeah,
given you
just
a
a
good
quick-
question that all of you have.
Yeah, well, the truth is that we are looking at it from both our own ends of
Yes.
our careers.
Yes.
And one thing I will also look at is I think there is a flaw in the way BPP actually converts public procurement. So there is a flaw in the way they do the conversion, because initially when the PPA was enacted in 2007, Public Procurement Act was enacted, there was no public procurement strategy. Every MDA just does their procurement, so they decided, okay, follow due process. Let's do the due process. So now the due process is in, and they don't have the professionals. What do? They decided that the best way is let's just convert them, and they now just get one consultant who I don't even know. And they will now just sit down and just do some training, and they just say they have been converted. You understand? And when you are having that conversion courses that are not really grounded, so whatever you are converting is not really giving you the results that you are looking for, and those few ones that may come in between that have the right skills, of course, if they are not getting paid, because it's a course that is on high demand. Let me use that word. If you are good, you get a job. That's for sure. In fact, so in Nigeria, it's a highly, highly, highly sought after job if you are good at what you do. So of course, why would they stay? So they will be left with those converted guys that are not really grounded in that area, and they will still be having those issues, even though they have it on record that they are procurement guys. But the question is always, are they really good enough? Are they really being trained, getting the right skills and what have you? And that is where the problem is, if you ask me. And I think now that Salisu is talking about the BPP now being headed by a fellow of CIPS, maybe they will now make it a standard that for you to be procurement professional, you have to go through the CIPS certification route and what have you. So that will now solve that problem. You have more professionals that are capable of doing that job. I think the problem has to be solved from that angle. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Aliyu. So I think maybe we'll take one more question. But just before then, some people are asking of the link to the Telegram page and other Arewa Youth Mentorship pages. So I have shared that on the chat box. So please, if you can just use the link tree and you can join. And I can also see Dr. Maje is one of our organizing committee members. Dr. Maje, do you want to add something?
Assalamu alaikum, Doctor. Sorry, a
Alexa.
quick one actually. It's a question that I have as we are talking in the context of Nigeria. And I would like to first thank the speakers actually for this wonderful presentation. My question is, how can procurement prevent corruption and unethical practice in the supply chain selection in Nigeria? As you know, Nigeria with the corruption is like 1 and 2 actually we go together. So is there any way, I know it is possible, but how can we use procurement to prevent corruption, to reduce it in a Nigerian context? Please, can someone share some light about it?
Okay.
Yeah, sure. I can say something, and then I believe all the speakers. Oh, Aliyu, you can go ahead, please.
No, go ahead.
All right. Obviously, if I get the question, you said, how can procurement be used to reduce corruption? Is that what you are saying, or how can we reduce corruption in procurement?
Yes, I think both ways, right? That's what he's saying. You
Well,
are
I'm not
masters
sure.
of supply chain management, and I think most of the corruption in government and even companies, they start from purchasing things. That's contracts, inflated contracts, and all that.
Yeah.
So I think this is really a fundamental question that we should have asked
Yeah.
from the onset.
Anyway, so that's fine. I think I have I wouldn't say I have an answer to the two perspectives, but I think there are things that we can do in order to look at it. I was part of the public financial reforms in Nigeria, which was I think it started during Obasanjo by introducing IPPIS, GPIS, and all of that, which is basically bringing technology into the entire process of public financial spending. That has drastically reduced access to public financing for corruption and all of that. But another gap is that the same people that are engaged in leveraging on the weak financial institutions or financial processes within public sector through back into procurement, right? Because as we said earlier, 70% of our public spending goes through procurement. There's a lot of political interference because that's probably the easiest and most practical way of accessing public funds, right? And it starts from the need assessment, right? Sometimes there is absolutely no need. This is why you have repeat procurement in the same category every year, right? Secondly, from supplier selection, most of procurement that are done in public sector are being single sourced or emergency procurement. These are all, triggering opportunity for unethical and corrupt practices. So in order to do that, obviously, we have to distinguish between the role of public financial, what do you call them, the chief executives, right? And implementation of procurement. You have to divide, there should be, a kind of, differentiating the role of chief executive and awarding contracts and so, right? Including the Federal Executive Council, they have to be, they should have no business awarding contracts when you have a very strong procurement system and procurement organizations. And use of technology is key, right? Most countries have digitized their end-to-end procurement. It's not just the process of creating a tender publishing platform. Every part of the decision making in procurement must be digitized, right? From need identification to know who declared the needs. What is the basis for declaring this need? How do you actually decide which route that you are going to follow in order to procure that item? Is it through competitive tendering? Is it single sourcing? Is it framework agreements? Whatever you want to use, there should be clear justification and transparency for the decision making, right? Selecting suppliers. How do we select suppliers? How do we work with the right suppliers, right? What makes you to give a IT project to an agricultural company? These are all lapses in the system, right? And then, of course, above all, the bubble is in contract management, right? After awarding, what happened? How do you track performance? How do you make sure that what is expected to be delivered in the contract has been delivered? Who is responsible for checkmating that? These are all processes that need to be digitized. Technology can make difference. And then just like Aliyu has mentioned earlier, that we need the right people to do that. Those that are professional. It's not everybody that can buy. Yes, anybody can go to the market and buy, but we are talking about procurement. And trust me, one of the impact of procurement is that, take an example, if you're building a bridge in Kano, Kaduna, or what have you, the decision in procurement can affect the quality, right? The lifespan of that infrastructure. Selecting the wrong supplier can have impact on the life of people. The same thing in the hospitals. The choice of supplier, the choice of material is a very serious business. It's not every Dick and Harry that can manage procurement. You need to work with the experts, people that have the ethics.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much. I think maybe this is at this point we have almost added about 15 to 20 minutes. So because of time, I think I should give you maybe one minute each. If you have some final words, I have already pasted the link to the Telegram page, so our participants can drop their questions there, and inshallah they will be attended to. But for our speakers, maybe we'll have some things to round off in just a minute. So let me start from the first speaker, Dr. Ibrahim Ali. If you have some final words before we call it a day, please.
Final word, I'll first build from Dr. Salisu's statement on ethics. Please, in the end, we're all human and most of us has faith. It's easy to be corrupt, no matter the technology you have. If your conscience, you know that what you're going to do is a sin, don't do it. So I'm not going to encourage you to come into corruption and you go to jail. Please be noble. We're all from a family. Protect the name of your family. Think about that honor of being a truthful person. If you're confident that you can still see billions and not be tempted, come to the field, come to the profession. And if you see threats to your life that you must sign some deals, you can always walk away. It's a fantastic field. You can save people from it, and you can also go to hell with it. So the choice is yours. Let's connect and continue the conversation. Thank you very much, and thank you, Professor Woodil, for this fantastic opportunity. I'm very happy to meet everyone here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ibrahim. And this just reminds me of a comment I saw on my Facebook page by just a friend when I shared this announcement. He said, since this session you are inviting billionaires, we will attend. So it's like telling me all the sessions we have been doing on scholarships, on other issues, we are just inviting academics and all that. But in this particular session, since we decided to invite billionaires to come and talk, he will come and listen. So Malam Aliyu, Dr. Ibrahim, Dr. Salisu, I think you should be ready. So let's have your final comments, Malam Aliyu, on this topic.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I think for me, it's all about the profession. You see, if you are dealing with procurement and supply chain, you are dealing with a professional job. So it's not like a job, like Salisu said, any Tom, Dick, and Harry can do. Let me give you an example. For you to be a chartered CIPS member, you have to undertake procurement ethics test every year to maintain your certificate. And if you fail, even if you get less than 70%, you are not going to get your chartered status. You must pass that ethics test, and it's just their own way of reminding you the job, that this is what it entails. And if we are dealing with those kind of people, wherever there is any allegation of procurement fraud or whatever, You could lose your charter status. You could lose your license. Imagine if everybody is like that. Do you think they will start thinking about doing the wrong thing if they can lose their license or whatever it is that they have that's making them professional? So I think the key problem now starts with getting the right people for the job. It's understandable that we are still way back in the world around procurement and supply chain professionals. That's why we are here. That's why we are now trying to support and mentor younger generation to come and take over as well. It's not late. In fact, if you start now, you are just starting. It has not even started at all. Yeah. So you can imagine when you come back and then you have all these opportunities waiting for you. So please, let's invest in ourselves. Let's invest in our personal development. Let's not wait for government or somebody to sponsor us. If you can do it at any level, please take the first step and start. It's just a matter of time. One day you will be done. So please, my appeal to everybody listening here is you're not late. You're just starting. We've not even started. Let me use that word. And I think this is the right time to be there. The next 10 years will be a roller coaster. People will remember this conversation coming out. AI is doing most of everybody's jobs, but not procurement and supply chain. So please, let's all embrace and develop ourselves. Thank you.
Yes,
I appreciate your time and your energy and putting this together. Thank you very much, Professor, for that. And my colleagues also, contributing. Thank you.
It's really our pleasure. It's really our pleasure, Madam Aliyu, to have you today. You have shared, remarkable insights on this topic. And we are really, very pleased to have you today. And I hope we will have you soon also, because this is just, we are just igniting the discussion. I believe in the near future, we can also touch on some other parts of this noble profession. So please, I hope you will also, grace once more our invitation when it is extended. Thank you very much. Dr. Salisu.
Yeah, thank you,
final words.
Yeah, I think my final message to everyone here is that obviously there is massive opportunity in transforming our society. And if you understand supply chain, you can easily build business that is not just profitable, but is impactful and hopefully could be sustainable beyond your own generation. So please think wisely, start now. We're here to support anyone that has an idea that needs support, fine-tuning business model, analyzing it from a more supply chain broader perspective. I'll be more than happy to do that. And I'm looking forward to more of this engagement. We just have to do what we can to support our community. And I'm really, really excited by what you guys are doing. I'm sorry that I'm part of the founding community, but I've not really been active. I'm sorry, but I will definitely find the best way to support. Thank you so much, Prof, and looking forward to having a chat with anyone that is interested. Please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salisu. And this has, we have reached the end of the session. And I would really like to thank you on behalf of all the mentors, the members of the organizing committee, and Professor Rabi Said, who also wanted to join us, but she couldn't due to some unavoidable circumstances. So I really, thank you, and I appreciate your time. And I hope also you will join us again soon. Dr. Salisu, you are already a member of the AYMP, team. So you are already one of us. We don't have, So we really appreciate all your efforts. Thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you all. To the participants also, you should look forward to, our upcoming session. Hopefully in a few weeks, we will find another interesting topic to come and discuss, inshallah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.
You can also be part of it as a mentor or student. Join the Arewa Youth Mentorship Program on Telegram, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. AYMP, together we can be great.